Good morning, and welcome to this morning's show. Today, this episode is brought to you by Linda Miller State Farm Insurance, where we take a holistic approach to everything involving your insurance. Today, we have the pleasure of meeting with John. John is involved in some ticket sales and is blessing us with his presence today. Tell us about you.
Yeah, sure. So, born and raised locally, and I graduated high school, and then about my third year of college, I started a company, Tickets in Time. And what we did is we started with a newspaper ad in the World Herald and the Lincoln Journal-Star at the time.
Okay.
And in those days, you'd still transact tickets on street corners. So I would travel to a lot of events, like the Big 12 basketball tournaments. We worked the Arch Madness that Creighton was in St. Louis. So it involved a lot of traveling and cash transactions at the time.
Okay.
So it's fair to say over the last 22 years, the business has changed quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so sports events, is there any other type of events that?
Yeah, so with secondary ticket sales, we focus on sporting events, concerts, and theater, and primarily sold out tickets or a premium seat that you could not get from the box office, or a premium seat that would only come from the season ticket holder. Those are the inventory that we carry and market to our client base.
Okay. What do you have, one or two or a few of your absolute favorites that you've been able to sell? Any artists or teams?
So we are nationwide, and we're really spread out across the entire United States. If there's a genre of tickets that I like the most, I would say it's college football.
Okay.
You know, as a kid that grew up here in the 90s, I was at all the 3 Tom Osborne national title games. And so ever since I started, I'd say that college football is probably the most fun to sell.
Okay. All right. And then you said that's nationwide. So that's a pretty exciting endeavor. What inspired you to get into this? You said you were at college.
Sure. You know, I think the inspiration came. My first call to a ticket broker happened in 8th grade in the fall of 1995 as Nebraska was preparing to play Florida in the epic beatdown in the Fiesta Bowl.
Okay.
And so for years I begged my father to take me to a bowl game. He finally gave in, but we did not have tickets. So at the time, a ticket broker was a new concept. So I remember calling 5 or 6 brokers in California, Tempe, and a couple guys here locally when I was 13 years old. And so I learned the business at a really young age, and I go, this is a really cool thing that these guys have Super Bowl tickets and Final Four tickets. And so ever since then, I followed the ticketing market, and about 10 years later, we started the business.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
What type of advice would you give to somebody that is considering starting their own business?
You know, there's a lot of different angles on entrepreneurship. I was a guy that bootlegged it with $100 in my bank account at the time. And so my story was pretty simple. I had a passion, right? And I had a passion for what I did as a kid. So in my lens of experience, for what it's worth, I would say find something you love at 13, 14, or 15 and find a way to go monetize it.
Yeah, that's great. That is great advice. We are with the startup community. It's really a powerful tool to instill these type of ideas into the youth, because it seems like even as an adult, this idea is great, but how do I implement it? How do I get that started? So, the kiddos. What other advice would you give to them?
If I look back over the last 22 years, and especially being so young, I had zero support in my dream of starting a business, right? So I think what I see now is a lot more socially acceptable now than it was back in 2003 when I launched a website and launched a newspaper ad. And, you know, I can tell you, if you're going to start your business, you get a lot of dream killers out there, whether that be parents or teachers or peers, right? And you've got to be used to not having a social credit score sometimes, right? I see a lot of business owners that are really zipped up and they're clean and they're doing this to be popular in the community, and those businesses typically don't make a lot of money, right? And so it's those things that you don't think about that maybe aren't so cool with your peer group that actually print the cash.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you for that. Thank you. Is there any inspiration that you follow? Is there someone that you keep up with? You like their ideas? Anybody fresh in your mind?
You know, the one book that absolutely changed my entire life was my senior year of high school. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And, you know, I hated school. I wasn't a straight A student. I didn't like a lot of the advice my elders were giving to me. And so once I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, and he talks about the truth about assets, real estate investing, and studying those 4 income quadrants, it completely changed my thought process and immediately got me thinking about working on a business.
Okay, I love that. And a lot of times within this community, and even into the industry that I work, we see so often that the business owners are working in the business, not on the business.
Very true.
Is there some tips or suggestions that you have to get into that?
Yeah, so, you know, when I first started there in about 2003, I spent about the first 3 or 4 years working in the entire business. So I had great concepts, profitable ideas, right? The business really blew up, and I finally had a home life when I hired the employees, right? So I would say if you're in a profitable industry that works, go prove out a concept and then hire a team of people behind that concept and keep working on the concept to improve it versus in. So if you look at it's hard to monetize your time as a business owner, but if I were to basically do that, I make 20 times as much money working on the business as I do inside of that business, right?
Yeah. And do you think that has some to just with control? Whenever I think about, you know, the ideas that I have or something that I may do down the road, it's really hard for me to think about not working in the business because I'm so particular and I just want things a certain way. Have you ever found that to be an issue for yourself?
Yeah, so, you know, I think as we go through the education system, we're all trying to get an A, right? We're all trying to memorize all the worthless jargon on a test, right?
Yeah.
But if we could accept a B or a B minus, but keep moving the needle with our staff with training and procedures. And when you make those procedures up and you improve your people, you're working on the business. So I think what you just described in the book, The Magic of Thinking Big, it's called detailitis, right? And so I think sometimes instead of us doing it ourselves, you know, we have to be able to move from an A to eventually get there to a B plus, A minus with the right people and the right training.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. How about if you were to compare yourself to a superhero? Is there any superheroes that stand out to you?
You know, I really can't answer that question. You know, it's my superheroes in life have all been business and entrepreneur people, so I can't really think of a superhero that set the world on fire by starting a business.
Yeah, fair enough. Although I think Clark Kent, he was such a businessman once he had his, glasses on. Awesome. Well, tell me, please, you said you grew up here?
Yep.
Okay.
You know, I did leave for Chicago and South Beach, if you want me to talk about those experiences for just a while.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people, Omaha is where they love to be.
Sure.
A lot of times you see people exit and then return.
Yeah.
Did you have any of those experiences?
Yeah, so I exited here in the summer of 2012. And, you know, instead of being a wholesaler of tickets where we would actually make the investment and buy the inventory, we switched gears and we became a marketer. And so what we did is went out and spent money on Google and Bing to generate traffic. And we were a little bit unique that we started up a call center. So I was going through some things personally. Landed in Chicago, and we built a pretty big office. We had about 20 or 25 people within the year that were working for us in Chicago. So I found that city at that time period to be dynamic. Met some really interesting people. Jeff Smizek, the CEO of United Airlines, happened to be my next door neighbor at the Trump Tower.
Oh, wow.
So we had some conversations, and yeah, that was an exciting time. And then from there, we had a terrible winter of 2014, so I went on vacation to Miami Beach, and I never left, so I was down there for about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And 2 different cities and 2 different experiences. But when I came back in 2018, you know, the business seemed to stabilize. I liked the workforce here.
Yeah.
And all the connections I had made when I was as young as 10 years old, they came to fruition with the recommendations and the referrals of the staff that we built out here locally. So it all seemed to work itself out in the end.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And you know, Omaha, to most people, is huge. It's gigantic, especially myself. I grew up in Northwest Missouri. So I enjoy the small community, you know, everyone knows your name. But Omaha is like a big little city.
Yep. I think you nailed it right on the head, right?
Yeah. Wow. All right. So do you have anything exciting that's around the corner? Anything going on?
You know, I think the most exciting thing, you know, we're working on an expansion process. You know, I think the exciting time happened right after COVID. So we had events blow up, and I think the industry was up about 30 or 40%. Right now, we're in a holding pattern. If you look at discretionary income, Las Vegas is down, travel's down, tickets are down. So I think what's exciting, I think it will come back here in 26 or 27.
Yeah.
And I think we should be seeing another Taylor Swift tour.
Okay.
So the Taylor Swifties out there, I think we got some great news around the corner.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You know, I have a friend, Rob, he works over at Stir Cove, and I, you know, try to get tips and information from him quite often. And my genre, my preferred genre is Christian music. And talking to him, and he was telling me that, you know, for the area, that those type of artists just don't bring in enough revenue. However, it's been interesting to see Forrest Frank.
Okay.
Have you heard of Forrest Frank?
You know, we've sold a little bit for Forrest Frank.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
okay.
I think he's going to blow up. It sounds like he's on the #1 of all genres right now.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
so it's kind of the old Christian revival that is just out there. It's happening.
You know, if I recall, in the 90s, he had Jars of Clay, right? And that was kind of the... And so that's an interesting genre, because I remember it doing well in the 90s, early 2000s. It's kind of slumped for the last 15 years.
Yeah. And so I grew up listening to Lil Wayne, and those type of artists. And so I'm now onto this indie tribe. It's No Big Deal, and John Keith, and just these artists, but they're also same thing. It's blowing up, and it's like they're just making great music.
That's great.
Very good music. So, yeah, excited to see, though, some more Christian. I know once upon a time Torrin Wells came to town, and I missed that one, but always interesting to see what comes to Omaha. Yeah. Do you know of any big events that are coming this way?
You know, we announced the Rascal Flatts show last week. So I don't think the Rascal Flatts have been here in about 15 years.
Amazing.
But as a whole, we were passed over by Paul McCartney. I don't really know a lot of things in the works. I occasionally see Roger Dixon around. I asked Roger, who's retiring here in December, and we're just, the whole industry is just kind of at a standstill.
Okay.
It was, I think, a disappointing summer of concerts. We're hoping that fall, winter, and spring season change things.
Yeah, yeah. And you say Swiftie, with the whole Kansas City movement, you know, you see lots of things going on with her, but yeah, looking to see some more in movement action.
Yeah.
So, great. Well, you did tell me that you had a significant other for quite some time.
Yep.
What type of advice would you give somebody to have a good work-life balance, work-home balance?
Yeah, so my girlfriend and I, we've been together 9 years, and we've had to figure it out because she works for the company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, we're both so intense from 9 to 5 that once we're off and go out to dinner, or our time is our time, we don't really talk about the company outside of work hours. We're just so busy and so exhausted at the end of the day. We're running training classes, or in my case, meetings with the marketing team or outside vendor partners. And so when it comes 5, and I know that everybody's a little bit different, we tend to just tune it off and focus on us.
That's really good advice. That's something I struggle with myself. My husband's my best friend, and so I don't want to tell him everything, but yeah, that's good to check that off.
Yeah.
How about marketing? What type of marketing endeavors do you think are the best ROI?
Sure. You know, it really is dependent upon the industry. In the secondary tickets, you know, you got your big brands, the StubHub, the SeatGeeks, and the Vivid Seats, and it's great to develop a brand, but you're looking at $300 million of venture capital, and by the time you raise those kind of funds, as a small entrepreneur such as myself, if I could even get those funds, your equity is depleted, right? So in our situation, we kind of have our niche on Google and Bing. We're getting into social, but you know, that's a very difficult question because every business is different. Every objective is different. Are we building quick revenue? Are we building a brand? And even though my degree is in marketing, I'm a terrible marketer. I have to pay others to get that done for me.
Okay, yeah. Well, you know what? That's great to just use the resources, and there's so many, you know, within the startup community. It's really quite phenomenal how many options are out there.
Absolutely.
So, fabulous. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to chat about that we didn't go over? I think I maybe asked you about that.
You know, if there's one piece of advice, I think what separates my secondary ticket company from the competitors is we have a combined 200 years of experience on our ticketing staff. So as an owner, you know, my lights turned on about 45 minutes ago. I don't need to show up to turn on the lights, right? That's great. And I also think, too, if you're building a business and looking to hire employees, pay them 20% above that market wage if they fit the culture and a fit. Because the worst thing for a business owner is to go out and replace a seasoned employee. It could take years, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions. I've seen it happen over and over. So that's really my hot button. You know, I don't like to give unsolicited advice. I would say more or less, I just like to tell the story.
Yeah,
You know?
I appreciate that so much. Well, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today. If you are looking to see your name, your brand, inside of one of our episodes, click on the link below. We can get that over to you. Like, subscribe, comment. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, if you're Omaha native, if you live in Council Bluffs, Carter Lake, rural areas, we want to share your story as well. Thank you for joining us today, and look forward to talking with you next week. Bye for now.